Welcome to Red, White, and Green. This episode takes a close look at transportation. Simply put, the gasoline engines that operate our cars, buses, machinery equipment, and airplanes are choking the planet.
You can have all the standards you want about trying to reduce CO2 emissions, but unless you address the issue of the automobile, I think you're going to leave a big part on the table.
However, there are many options that can significantly reduce the consumption of fossil fuels and potentially emerging technologies that will one day completely end our dependence. For over 200 years, we have blindly depended on fossil fuels for our energy needs. Today, global warming and impending climate change are perhaps the biggest threats facing mankind and our very planet. It's now clear that human-based emissions are the key factor in our current climate crisis. From individuals, corporations, and even government, now more than ever, the choices we make in our daily lives impact the global community and our future generations. Our only hope for survival is to shift the perception of global warming from an abstract threat to a stark reality. Join us as we investigate the latest green technologies, sustainable products, and strategies being developed by pioneering companies across the country. Together, we will discover viable and practical solutions to save the planet we call home. Obviously, vehicle transportation is a vital human activity and necessary for functioning societies. Biofuels, electric cars, hydrogen fuel cells, and progressive public transportation are all options. It is necessary to closely examine the advantages and disadvantages of each technology, the challenges facing mass production, and the potential for continued innovations with next-generation technologies. Public policymakers and the private sector should be accountable for making environmentally friendly choices available to consumers. Likewise, consumers now have a moral obligation to make responsible decisions in regards to reducing carbon footprints.
The transportation sector is an area that needs a lot of work. If you look at the global warming pollution that comes from just the transportation sector in the United States, that's greater than the pollution coming from the entire economies of every nation on the planet except for China. Americans are increasingly desperate to break our dependence on petroleum, and scientists are telling us with increasing urgency that global warming seriously threatens our future, and we need to act quickly to break our addiction to fossil fuels. In 2005, the United States was responsible for about 22% of the world's global warming pollution, and roughly a third of that pollution from the United States comes from the transportation sector, including personal vehicle use, trucks and trains and airplanes, and that pollution from just that sector is greater than the pollution coming from the entire economies of every country on the planet except for China. So we have a few options. We can use corn-based ethanol, which is growing in use, soy, biodiesel. We can use electricity to power our vehicles. When you look at any alternative transportation fuel, you need to look at the life cycle emissions that result from use of that fuel. So you can't just look at the emissions that come out of the tailpipe. When you're talking about soy-based biodiesel or corn-based ethanol, you need to look first at farm practices that go into producing that fuel. So everything from diesel tractors that are used on a farm to the trucks that ship the corn to the refinery to process it into ethanol, to what powers that refinery. Is it the coal electricity that powers that? Then are you shipping that ethanol to some other place on the planet? What are the emissions resulting from that? We also need to do more to promote other ways to reduce emissions from the transportation sector, like public transportation, building our communities in ways that you don't have to drive 100 miles to get to your work or to get to the grocery store.